Okay, if you're in computer science, I bet you've lost sleep over this one question. You spend years grinding away, stressing over every single decimal point, all for this one number that everyone tells you will make or break your entire career. But is that actually true? So let's dive in and see if we can finally get a straight answer on this.
So imagine this. You did it. You hit a 9.5 GPA. That's incredible. You should be set for life, right? A golden ticket to any job you want. But what if I told you that some people think that stellar grade could actually be a trap, one that sets you up for failure? I know, it sounds nuts, right? But this is the exact debate that's just raging among students and developers right now.
And look, this slide just lays out the confusion perfectly. You've got one camp saying you got to keep that CGPA above a 9, no excuses. And then you have this other person, a developer, who graduated with a 6.4 and is now pulling in a salary of around $90,000 a year. So, how can both of these things be true at the same time? Let's figure out what is really going on here.
All right, this brings us to our first big topic, the great grade debate. And honestly, it feels like a battlefield, right? You're getting conflicting advice from seniors, professors, random people on Reddit, and it leaves most students feeling completely lost.
And when you really start digging into what people are saying, it gets even murkier. So a high GPA, a lot of the time, it's just a filter. It's just a way for recruiters to take a giant pile of resumes and make it smaller. It's an entry barrier. But here's the crazy part. It can actually backfire. Interviewers see that 9+ GPA and they think, okay, this person must be a genius, and they hit you with the really hard questions. At the same time, you've got people with totally average grades landing jobs at Amazon, and others from top colleges getting huge starting salaries with a CGPA below 8. This tells us one thing for sure. Your GPA is part of the story, but it is absolutely not the whole story.
Okay, so if it's not just about the grades, then it's got to be about skills, right? But that just opens up a whole new can of worms. Because now you're not just worried about one number. Suddenly, you're facing this endless, terrifying checklist of technologies that everyone says you have to know.
And honestly, this quote just nails that feeling. Trying to pick the right skills? It feels exactly like that. Like you're trying to pack an emergency bag, but your entire kitchen table is just a mess of random stuff. There are articles yelling, you need these 10 things, but none of it ever seems to fit your situation. It is so overwhelming, and you're just constantly terrified that you're going to grab the wrong things for your career journey.
So how in the world do you bring some order to all this chaos? Well, let's talk about a mental framework that can really help you think more strategically about what to learn. And it's all about building your T. So this idea of T-shaped skills is a really simple but super powerful metaphor. Think of the letter T. The vertical part, the pipe symbol, that's your deep expertise in one specific area. Maybe you're a wizard in Python or a guru in cybersecurity. But that horizontal bar, the dash, is just as crucial. That represents your ability to talk to and work with people in other fields. Designers, product managers, you name it. It's about knowing enough about a lot of things to be a great team player.
And look, this isn't just some new trendy buzzword. This idea has been around for decades in places like McKinsey and Company. It goes by a bunch of different names. A versatilist, a generalizing specialist, even a Renaissance developer. I kind of like that one. The key takeaway is this. The most valuable people aren't just one-trick ponies. They're specialists who can see how their work fits into the bigger picture. Okay, so let's take this kind of abstract T-shape idea and make it something you can actually use. A concrete strategy. Instead of trying to learn, well, everything, we're going to focus on packing what I like to call a tech go bag. This right here is the key mindset shift. You're not trying to become a master of the universe overnight. You are packing a small, super essential set of skills that are designed to do one thing, get you to your next objective, which is landing that first solid job. We're talking about the next 6 to 18 months, not the next decade.
Okay, so what actually goes in this go bag? Well, you can decide strategically. Just use these 4 simple criteria. First, frequency. How often is this skill actually popping up in job postings, like right now? Second, salary. Is this skill going to pay off? We're talking starting salary and room to grow. Third, learnability. Can you realistically learn this thing on your own or through a boot camp, without needing another 4-year degree? And finally, stackability. Does this skill play nicely with others? Can it help you pivot down the road?
All right, let's run through a quick example so you can see how this works in the real world. Take AI literacy. It's showing up in more than 10% of entry-level jobs, even non-tech roles, and it's super stackable. Python? It's an absolute beast.
You're seeing it in something like 60% of technical roles. It opens doors everywhere: web, data, AI, you name it. And then there's cybersecurity. We're talking over 150,000 open jobs with really strong starting pay. See? Using criteria like this lets you pick your skills based on actual data, not just whatever's trending on Twitter this week. All right, so you've picked the skills for your go bag. You've been hitting the books, you've been learning. Now for the most important part. You have to prove you can actually use them. And the absolute best way to do that? Projects.
But here's the catch, and it's a big one. This data from a recent study is absolutely fascinating. Basically, it shows that when students grade their own projects, their scores have almost no connection to how an expert would grade the exact same project. These numbers you see here, 0.16 and 0.38, are crazy low. To give you some perspective, a perfect match would be 1.0. So this means there's pretty much no relationship between how good we think our work is and how good it actually is. It turns out we're not great judges of our own stuff.
But, and this is a big but, here's the flip side. Even though it's hard to judge our own work, the same study found that over 91% of students want to design their own projects. They're actually motivated by it. This is huge. It means that project work, even with its challenges, taps into this powerful, natural drive we have to learn and to create.
So what's the takeaway here? The crucial point is this: building real-world projects is the #1 absolute best way to prove what's in your go bag. It takes all that knowledge from your head and turns it into tangible proof. Proof that you can solve real problems and build actual things. And that, at the end of the day, is what employers really, really care about.
And that brings us full circle. We started with all this anxiety about grades, then we got completely lost in a sea of skills you're supposed to have, but now we have a path forward. So let's nail down what your first step should be.
First thing, stop obsessing over the number. The evidence is pretty clear on this. A good GPA might crack open a door, but it's not going to carry you through it. Instead, put all that energy into strategically choosing a few high-impact skills, the stuff that's going to get you to the next level. And most important of all, it's about what you can build. Your portfolio, the collection of things you've actually created, that is the ultimate proof. And trust me, it speaks way louder than any grade ever will.
So, let's forget the whole GPA debate for a second. Ask yourself a new question. Thinking about your goals for the next year or so, what is the very first thing you're putting in your tech go bag?